Hello and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. On the last segment, I started showing you instruments, pictures of instruments, so I can do some comparison. It is a little easier sometimes than just bringing instruments in and this is this one and this is that one. And so I'm going to continue with that today because I've got a lot more to go. One of the blessings in having an instrument collection like what I have, and I have an extensive collection, is the fact I really do have something to start with in terms of showing people things and teaching them things, and I can point things out. It's like when I teach, I always use keyboards, and not all places where I've taught have keyboards or a piano, but I can make posters of them and I can show this, that, and the other because I want students to get a good musical education. It's not just learning how to play a note or how to finger a certain note or how to count the beats in certain types of timing. All of that's important, of course, but I want to show a general musical education, to see instruments, to be able to kind of experience them. And so the best way to do that is to either bring them in, and I usually bring in a fair amount, or to bring in pictures of them because I can't bring them all in at the same time. So I'm going to continue from where we left off last time, only this time I'm starting with the flute. So if we can get a picture of that. A kind of close-up of the flute. Yeah, that's good. Okay, right there. You'll notice the mouthpiece is different. The mouthpiece of the flute is raised and there's a hole. Now, if you had an instrument that just had the hole for the mouthpiece, you'd be talking about a fife. But where it's raised up like that, it's talking about a flute. This is a really, really nice picture of a flute. And one thing I want to point out, these are open finger holes. There are some flutes where you can buy them and they have open rather than closed keys. Most of the time you buy them, all the keys will close when you press them, but you can get some that have open, and it's supposed to be better for the tone, softer for the tone, and there are some that you can buy where you can have a choice. An instrument key can be open or closed. The way that whatever you want to do, you just adjust it for what you want. It is a very beautiful flute. Now here's a sketch of it, a drawing of it. I took it from an instruction book, and you can see how that mouthpiece is raised, and it also acts, and I didn't put the full thing in, of course, but it also acts as a fingering chart, so you know what finger to put where. It is a little bit different than recorders, but it plays well, and you have to hold it up to the side to play it. Now, on one of my flutes, I brought in just the head joint. The head joint goes quite a ways, but this is the mouthpiece. I just did it to get a hold of the mouthpiece, and it is kind of a large hole, as you can see, and then the raised area is quite a raised area around it, and that's the flute. It comes from one of my own flutes. And you notice it's grayish, a little grayish. It's not because it is old, even though it is old, but that's silver. The instrument is silver, and it tarnishes. And if I wanted to spend the time polishing it, then I could get it bright and shiny. It doesn't have a lacquer on it. It's all silver. But I leave it like this because even if I polished it, and I could, there's no reason why I couldn't, then in another week, it would be back to looking like that again. Now, I took the mouthpiece, and I twisted it over to its side, and you can see how far it's raised on its side. The actual hole for the mouthpiece would be over here. This whole area is raised. This is the head joint. This part screws into the rest of the instrument, and there's a little cap there. That cap prevents the air from going in this direction. When you play an instrument, all of the air that you put into the instrument needs to be going in one direction and one direction only. If you have like a recorder, your mouth is going to act as a barrier so that the air is always going to go down. On a flute, it has a little cap, so when you hold it up to your mouth, and I'm just going to show you on this one here, we have shown it before, but when you hold it up and put your mouthpiece put your mouth on here. If it did have a mouthpiece, this is an end blown, so there's no mouthpiece right here. It's on the end, but let's pretend that it does. You would hold it up like that. There would be a little hole, and that acts as your mouthpiece, and that would be a 5. Technically, it would be a 5. Okay, so let me move to the next one. This is my piccolo. I have a Gemeinhardt piccolo. It's a German piccolo. This is just about full size. They are smaller, quite a bit smaller than flutes, but they have the same key pattern. And here's your mouthpiece, and here is a little hole in the mouthpiece, and they're on the same principle, of course, as the flute. This is a German make. It's a very nice instrument. And I got it by negotiating the price because they wanted a lot more money than I actually paid for it. But it's a wonderful instrument. Okay, clarinets have the little, and I showed this last time, have a different kind of mouthpiece. They're a reeded instrument, so they have the mouthpiece and they have a reed. I want to show this, but the fingering, a part of the fingering is going to be similar. This is going to be the head. This is going to be the mouthpiece. This is going to be the neck of the instrument, or the barrel of the instrument. This goes to the first part of the upper body. This is the lower body, and this here is the bell. So this instrument can be divided into those parts, but I wanted you to see the mouthpiece. And I brought mouthpieces in last time, so I don't want to belabor the point, but this is a mouthpiece of it would be like any saxophone or clarinet would have a mouthpiece like this. This would have the reed in it, and it goes on the top of the instrument, and usually there's cork between the joints, so you put cork grease on it and kind of twist it in place. You can't jam it together. You can really damage it if you do that. But I just wanted you to see the differences in the mouthpiece, some of it which I showed you last week, but just to review again. Here you have the full instrument, the mouthpiece with a cap on it on here, but this is a small one, so I'm going to kind of skip over it. The clarinets come in different sizes and shapes. Here you have a B-flat clarinet, which is what most people play. There's also an A concert clarinet, which is very similar, but it's larger by like about a ½ an inch, and it plays in the key of A instead of B-flat. I have one of those too. This is an alto clarinet with a tipped bell and the neck piece, which goes over to one side. And this is the bass clarinet, and it has the mouthpiece, and it goes over to the side, but it has a little curve in it. It's quite long, and here's the bell. So when you get into those instruments, you get different sizes and different shapes, but they're basically the same instrument. Now I'm going to skip this right here and skip this right here. We've kind of gone over it. Another picture of a mouthpiece with a ligature right there and a cap that goes over it, because you've got to protect the mouthpiece at all times. Let's see, so I'm going to just push this over. Here's another picture of a mouthpiece. There is a ligature, the cap is on it, and you don't see the reed, but a little bit of piece of the mouthpiece is sticking out. It's just to protect it. You can destroy a mouthpiece, you can destroy reeds, it's easy to do it. I just put this in here for comparison. And here again, the mouthpiece here, this is a better picture of the ligature and the cap, which will go on top of it to protect it. This is the same thing, except you're seeing the ligature in the front where it is screwed together, and the reed is right here, and the cap. There's a label on that cap. This is why you keep seeing that. And you slide it on, and then you protect it that way. Now, the saxophones. Saxophone is my major instrument. That's the instrument that I really started on when I did the woodwinds. And you can see how the mouthpieces are. This is a tenor saxophone because it's got a crook in it. It's got the familiar crook of the tenor. The regular saxophones, E-flat alto saxophones, don't have that crook. But you can see how the mouthpiece is attached. The ligature, it screws on the bottom, and of course you can't see the reed, but it's there. It's a very, very nice picture. This is a baritone. This is huge. I don't think I could even lift it to play it. The fingering patterns will be the same, but it is very, very, very large. Also in the key of E flat, and you can see it has all of the tubing. When you have an instrument that's large, but you don't want it to be any larger, you can make it as if it is larger by adding a lot of extra tubing. It's more tubing for the air to go through. If you put it straight and didn't have it convoluted like that, the air would go through it, but the instrument would have to be much, much taller. So instead, they twist it around and twist it around so you get the same amount of tubing as you would as if it was straight, but they can compact it in a smaller size. They are beautiful instruments. I'm going to skip this. It is on its side. I don't need it right now. So now we come to the tonettes and the song flute. The mouthpieces, it's impossible to take a good picture of them, so that's why I have these drawn out. The mouthpieces are just like pretty much like a recorder or a wind instrument mouthpiece. They're about the same shape, they're about the same size, they work on the same principles. They're smaller, they're one-unit instruments. You cannot take and pull them apart. I've had them in here before. Here we go, right here. Song flute. And, we'll put that right there, tonette. The mouthpiece, if you look in the back of it, it does have that slant. I hope you can see it. And the mouthpiece is a slit on the top of it. And this is the same. I mean, you put these instruments together, the mouthpieces are just about the same. They're one-unit instruments. You don't want to pull them apart, and they're about the same size. The quality of the tone is a little different because just of the way that it's designed, but they both work, and it's easier to see them if I hold them up than look at pictures, I guess. Here's a sassoon flute, and here's a penny whistle. I've shown you the penny whistles before. Here is, let me see, I thought I had, here we go. Here's a sassuto. And if you look at the side, it has that same slanting kind of arrangement. And I don't know how you can catch this. You may not be able to, but it has a labium. It has a little lip to it, and it has a window, and it's very hard to see because it's black. No tone holes in the back. Very, very similar to the penny whistle. The sassuto is really kind of a form of penny whistle anyway, and I have shown you the penny whistles, labium, and where you just blow in. This is the kind of mouthpiece that they both have. They're very similar, but they sound different because one is brass and one is plastic. We'll skip this one. I didn't intend to use all of them. All right, a mouthpiece for the brass would be like this. And you put it up to your lip and press your lip against it to play it. And with the woodwinds, you put the mouthpiece in your mouth or up to your mouth. But on this is the way it is. This is my mouthpiece for my trombone. I do have a trombone. And if you look at it from another angle, well, I've got it on the side here. This is quite heavy, by the way. This is a full-size mouthpiece. I didn't shrink it up at all. And the mouthpiece, if you were to look at it, front on, looks like this, if you can catch that. It's like a tube down there. You put it up and you blow into it. There's a way to do it, you know. There's right ways and wrong ways to do it, but if you do it right, this is the front of the mouthpiece. I had somebody, my sister I guess it was, who had a trumpet that she took it down from the attic. And she says, I can't make it play. Now, she plays brass instruments, and she's an organist and a pianist. So when she says she can't play it, I'm surprised because she's an excellent musician. And I looked at it, and it had been in the attic for years, and this was all clogged up. This used to be a tube. I took a Q-tip, and I just cleaned it out and washed it all up. It's metal, so I could do that, and it worked beautifully. You have to watch your mouthpieces and make sure that they're worthy to be played, that they're clean enough, that they're clear enough. Here is an accordion. I just put it in just so you see the differences in instruments. This is an accordion. My mother used to play accordion. She was very good at it. They tend to be heavy. You can get some that aren't so heavy, and they are closed up, and you have your bass notes over here and the keyboard over there. You open it up. Everybody knows what the accordion looks like. And so if it's opened up, you see that this here, it doesn't come out clearly, but this is all bellows, and this is where the air comes in. It's a little like an organ in the sense that it has a set of bellows in it, but that's what you, and if it's old, some of these bellows perforate and you get air leaks and then you can't play them. Now for the piano, just to kind of complete this, a piano, this is a grand, this is a baby grand. A baby grand can cost thousands of dollars. This one is ebony, pure ebony, and it has 75,000 moving parts to it. Why are pianos so expensive? That's 75,000 moving parts. And this one happens to be 6 feet long, 6 feet 3 inches long. Here's another piano. I gotta watch my time. I've got enough, I guess. And this is mahogany. And you see, they can lift that up, and you can get more tone. The strings are in the inside of the instrument. Most people now play keyboards, and they're all done by computers and chips and all of that. But there's nothing that replaces a good old-fashioned grand piano, especially if it's in good shape. These are the parts of the piano. This whole area here, where I'm pointing with my pointer here, is called the spine. Then it curves around like that. These are all sustaining pedals. There are some that hold notes for a long time. There are some that hold notes just for a short time, and then some that soften notes. So you have 3 people. And this here is a lyre. This is a lyre. It's actually a music stand. This is the case. This whole thing here is a case, and this is the lid. You just put it up and down, and sometimes you can vary the length of time you put it up and down. I know the university where I was bought a brand new grand piano. It was huge. It stretched out, I don't know how many feet it was, but it stretched out all over the stage. It was brand new. They were so proud of it. It was a concert grand. They got a concert artist to play it, and wouldn't you know, it had a little problem. The little problem is one of the notes would stick. He'd press the note, and it would ring and ring and ring, and it wouldn't stop. And he couldn't play like that because he was hitting that note all the time. So all you're going to do is hear that ring of the note. So what someone had to come to do in the music department is just lift up that note. Every time he played it, he stood by the piano and lifted up the key and lifted up the key. These are all in the back, places like a wiring, you know, where you hit the note, you'll have a place that hits the note, and then it does its vibrating, and then it's supposed to stop, and sometimes it doesn't if there's something wrong with the piano. So just to show you that, this is the inside of the grand piano. The larger it is, the more moving parts it has. And I decided to do this because I just wanted to make this complete, and I didn't want to not have it complete. And here's another grand piano, and the lid is down, and you have the piano bench. I can see this didn't get put in so carefully. These are vertical upright pianos. A lot of the older pianos are vertical and they're upright, but they play very, very well. My mother had one that was complete ebony. And then you have spinets. Spinets are shortened pianos. Some of them have full-size keyboards, and some of them don't. And they're good for apartments, but if you really want to play well, and if you have a concert artist coming, they'll probably destroy the keys some, because if they play too hard on it, you can actually break a string. So that would be a spinet. Small keyboard and a roll-up piano. I had 3 or 4 roll-up pianos. They're about the size of a regular small keyboard, and they just roll up. They have two problems. One, you can't depress the keys. You press on them, but you can't really depress them. And the other worst problem they have is that they don't last. They have a tendency just to break down, and that's the end of it. This is a very, very, very old piano when they first started making grands. This is one of them. This is a kazoo. I've had them in here before. Then I have a number of pictures or sketches from a children's book of various instruments, the guitar, the bell, banjo, another sketch of the banjo, saxophone, bagpipes, trumpet, the upright piano, tambourines. I'm going to do a show. I'm going to stop this here. I do want to mention, though, I want to show this picture of an organ. This is my sister playing a Tracker Hamel pipe organ. It has like 900 keys. It has 2 keyboards. It goes on 2 floors. This is a top floor, the second floor where the sanctuary is. And all of those, by the way, all of those pipes work. It's not a facade. There are over 900 pipes. They all work. It's been renovated. Underneath, on the floor below it, is what's called the chest. And it has some pipes there, and it has all of what would be the bellows or the air blowers getting the air to the organ so it can play. So when you get a fantastic organ and it's historic like that, you have to have 2 floors to accommodate it because it's so large that it can't be accommodated just on 1 floor. So she is playing that organ. So we're kind of out of time, so I'm going to close it here, and we'll be doing something else next time. I want to go into the construction of some of these instruments and what to look for when you're buying them, and get into the physical attributes of how they're made. So we'll close it here. Please join me next time.